My name is Biscuit, and I am a Yorkshire Terrier pup. I have tiny paws, ears that always seem to be listening, and fur so soft that everyone who picks me up wants to hold me just a little longer. They say I'm cute, loyal, and smart, but none of that matters as much as what I saw and what I felt. I was lying under the kitchen table that day. It was my favorite spot, quiet, safe, with the smell of fresh bread and memories of laughter. But that day, it was different. "You don't need her anymore. She's just a burden." Those words cut through the air like the sound of thunder without rain. I didn't understand everything. I'm just a little dog after all, but I felt the pain in my human's voice. She was behind me, standing by the sink, her hands wet and her eyes distant. No one knew I was there under the table, but I heard everything, and I never forgot. My human's name is Margaret, but I've always called her my human. She was mine from the first day they placed me in her arms, and I've been hers every day since. The house was big, quiet, with a beautiful garden no one tended anymore. And her? She seemed forgotten by almost everyone, except me. The voice that said those words, "just a burden," belonged to the tall lady with loud heels and a strong perfume smell. She came sometimes with my human son, but never stayed long. She looked at my human like she was an old piece of furniture, a burden. I don't understand these things, but I see, I feel. And that day, I felt something was about to change. My human son stayed quiet, staring at his phone. The lady spoke as if my human wasn't even in the room. They were planning, talking about a place with nurses, a place where she'd be fine. But none of those words carried any warmth. My human stood still. I felt her breathing change, slower, shallower. She wiped her hands on her apron and turned to the kitchen window, as she did when she wanted to hide her eyes. I followed. I pressed my little head against her leg as I always did when I wanted to say, "Hey, I'm here. You're not alone." That day she didn't cry, but she was very quiet. And even without words, I knew that moment was important, as if from then on she had to make a choice, to let herself fade or to rekindle a spark. What they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I was there, and I wasn't going to let her light go out. The days grew grayer after that conversation. My human, Margaret, stopped humming around the house. She used to sing while tending to the plants on the porch, even when she forgot the lyrics. Now only the wind made noise outside, and the sound of my footsteps, always near her, trying to remind her I was still there. I saw her sadness like you see the sky change before a storm. She stared at the picture frame on the shelf for a long time, the one with her grandson in her arms. He didn't come anymore. Sometimes she whispered his name so softly, as if trying to remember her own voice. They came once a week, her son and the lady with the strong perfume. I always knew when they were coming. The smell, the sound of the car, the way the whole house seemed to hold its breath for a few minutes. She'd fix her hair, put on a light shade of lipstick, sit in her chair with a hopeful smile. But when they walked in, it was like they didn't even see it. They sat, talked about things she didn't understand, checked their watches constantly, and sometimes they raised their voices. "Mom, you need to understand this is what's best for you. There you'll have everything you need and company." But they didn't know what she really needed. They didn't see the mornings when she woke up slowly, ran her hand over my head, and said, "You're still here, my little angel." They didn't know she still knew how to make bread, or that she remembered the recipe by heart. They only saw what they wanted to see. Someone old, forgotten, frail.
I'm just a little dog, but I know when someone's being left behind. It was on one of those quiet afternoons that everything changed. I heard the front door, and when I looked, it was a different lady. Kind face, soft steps, no high heels. She knelt down to pet me before even talking to any human. "Hi, little one. Are you Biscuit?" She brought a box with papers and books. She spoke slowly to my human, sat at the table, asked about cakes, old recipes, notebooks that smelled of flour, and I saw my human's eyes light up again. That night, for the first time in a long time, Margaret rummaged through the kitchen jars. I stayed right at her feet, wagging my little tail. She was humming, for real. Something was coming back, something beautiful. And the most magical part? It all started because of me. They said it was a community program for ladies living alone, and that I, yes, me, was the reason her application was approved. Because she still takes care of a little animal with love. They wanted to take my human away from her home, but they forgot that a home isn't just walls. It's where there's life, and I was proof that hers was still there. Little by little, everything started to change, and I saw it. I saw every piece fall back into place. My human started waking up earlier. She'd light the oven even when no one was coming over. And I knew it was cake day. The smell of vanilla filled the house before the sun hit the porch. I'd sit in my usual spot near the sink rug, watching her movements, stronger, more confident. She started writing in a little notebook, drawing, crossing out, rewriting. It was like she was creating something new. Something just hers. The kind lady came back every week. Sometimes she brought bags with flour, yeast, new baking pans, and always a genuine smile, as if she couldn't wait to hear what my human had discovered since her last visit. I knew it was something big. I could feel it in the air. The kitchen came back to life. Margaret and I danced silently between the furniture while she hummed. She baked different breads, tried new frostings, and one afternoon she put a little apron on me. Yes, me! A small piece of white cloth with blue embroidery that read, "Head Assistant." I was so proud, I even lifted my head to pose for the photos the kind lady took. And if you, human on the other side of the screen, have made it this far, let me tell you something straight from my little canine heart. Before I tell you how we turned things around and how she became the neighborhood star, if this story has already touched your heart, do what humans always say. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Seriously, when you do that, more people can hear stories like my humans. Stories of light, of starting over, of someone who seemed forgotten, but only needed a little attention, a little love, someone like you who cares. And if you know a grandma or grandpa who seems sad, remember, sometimes all they need is someone who feels, even without speaking. A wagging tail, a little head on their lap, a look that says, "I'm here. You still matter." Thank you for staying with me this far. But it's not over yet. The best is yet to come. That morning, I knew something was different the moment she opened the window before the sun even rose. The sky was still pink and the breeze smelled of dew. Margaret looked outside and whispered something I didn't understand, but her tone was sweet, like someone talking to her own courage. The kind lady arrived with a basket. This time, it held flyers, colorful ribbons, labels, and a little notebook with words that sounded mysterious to me. Sunday Market, handmade goods. My human didn't say anything at first. She just took the flyer, looked at it closely, then looked at me and smiled.
The next day, she wore a new apron, a red one, hand-embroidered by someone from the community group. It read, Margaret's Bakes and Biscuit. I got a collar with a matching bow and a little box of treats she made herself, one for every pup that stopped by her stall. Yes, she set up a stall, an entire bakery on 2 folding tables. The first time we went to the park with everything set up was magical. I remember the kids stopping to look at us, the neighbors who didn't even know she still lived there, approaching with surprise in their eyes, and her, my human, so beautiful, so confident, offering samples of honey bread, explaining the ingredients with passion, smiling with every compliment. It was like watching the sun rise inside her. People came back, asked for more, talked among themselves. They said things like, "It's amazing to see her so lively," or "You've got golden hands, Margaret." And there I was, sitting in the corner with my head assistant apron, wagging my tail until it hurt from happiness. But the most unforgettable moment was when they showed up. Her son, the lady with the strong perfume, they came walking slowly like they'd stumbled into a dream they didn't expect to find. She paused from packing little boxes for a second, but didn't look down, didn't hide. She just smiled and said, "Try the cinnamon one. It's been selling a lot." They didn't know what to say. The lady gave an awkward half smile. Her son, well, he held the jar, tasted it, and only managed to say, "It's delicious, Mom." But she was already helping someone else, like a true artist, like someone who had finally remembered who she was. And me, I lay at her feet and thought, this is it. She won. The days that followed were full of color. The sun streamed through the kitchen window like it knew exactly where to shine. My human baked bread, wrote recipes, answered order notes that neighbors left in the mailbox. Sometimes she laughed to herself, reading compliments that came with the change. Margaret had become needed again, but in a different way. Not because someone needed her to take care of things, but because she was doing something just for her, exactly as she wanted. And me, I knew I'd helped make that happen. She had friends now, some with white hair like hers, others much younger. They swapped recipes, held gatherings in the garden, and drank tea like it was a party. And the most beautiful thing, Margaret started telling stories. Stories of her youth, her childhood, the smells of her mother's kitchen, and everyone listened. One afternoon, she picked me up, something she did less now because she said I was getting chubbier from all the treats, and whispered, "You saved me, you know." I didn't understand all the words, but I understood what she felt. And when she pressed her forehead to mine and said, "Thank you, Biscuit," I swear I felt my heart grow twice as big. The family kept visiting, but now it was different. They brought flowers, her son fixed the garden fence, the lady with the strong perfume, who now wore a much softer one, even helped set up a website called Margaret's Bakes. But my human no longer waited for anyone to recognize herself. She had already recognized herself, and that was everything. Today, as I write this story with my snout on her favorite cushion, I hear the sound of the mixer,
There's a cake in the oven, and on the radio, that song she loves plays, the one she hums softly when she's happy. And me, I just watch, and I keep every piece of this new life like a precious secret. Because I'm Biscuit, a loyal, attentive, and very, very cute Yorkshire Terrier. My mission was simple: stay by my human side until she remembered she was still incredible. Now she remembers, and me, I'll never let her forget.